to Pets Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.
And for this Tuesday, the 13th of May, we'll continue with our list of our top 20 pet care savings ideas that Des, as I know, produced and come up with the goods on as well. I have to say, a lot of people reacting positively about the list as well. We'll go through some more of those items in just a couple of moments. Generally speaking, Des, the weather forecast for the week is quite good into the weekend too, which I think is important to take into account, especially if you've got dogs and cats, and particularly dogs, because dogs are in the cars more often.
Yeah, so if it gets any warmer, people need to remember to keep the car windows slightly open if they're travelling with their pets. If it gets any warmer, you need to remember to provide shade around the backyard, back garden for your dog, and leave the patio doors open. If you have those sliding glass doors, leave them open. Allow the dogs come in and out. Back doors open, so better ventilation in the areas if it gets any warmer. Currently the temperatures at night would be stuffy enough inside in houses, and people forget that dogs have less of a tolerance for temperatures than we do. They need more ventilation than we do, especially at night. So maybe start to leave the dogs downstairs with a couple of small downstairs windows left open for them, that sort of thing, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. They're sensitive to temperature change. We're getting into warmer weather now, and it's quite amazing how the number of cases we see a day that are kind of heat related. Dogs that aren't groomed yet and still have the big shaggy coat. Mm-hmm. If the dog still has the big heavy winter coat, the old retriever, the old German shepherd, definitely they need to be booked for the groom. Get that done. So they're intolerant of changes in temperature. They don't sweat. Remember, they pant to try and regulate their temperature, and that's not an efficient way to thermoregulate. So the reason why dogs overheat, both indoors and outdoors on sunny days, is because they don't manage their body temperature very efficiently because they don't sweat. So important stuff like that. Another good tip is that drinking water, especially left outside, needs to be changed regularly, because the water needs to be cooler in order for them to drink it and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. I've seen before, and I know we've done it even just for cats. I know cats don't necessarily go to the bowl like the way dogs do, but just throwing a few ice cubes into the water is a good way of cooling it up as well.
Yeah, ice cubes in the water, that's a good one. And also they'll eat less, John. Dogs and cats will eat less at this time of year. Yeah. We've had people bring animals into us thinking, he's sick, she's not herself and she's eating. The dog may simply be eating less and even drinking less because of the warm temperatures.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that they're sick, but do get advice about what you can do to manage their food and water a little bit better at this time of year.
Okay, so I want to ask one quick question, because Julie was on. She just said she has to go because she asked Des a quick question.
Good, yeah.
She said it's about her cat. She says, our cat in recent weeks has totally gone off the food, whether it's the solid stuff or we even went out and bought kind of the gravy one, and then we went off and got some jelly-based packs as well. The dry food we've always fed her with, but we now know that she's just not eating it. She's in great form. She's not ill. She doesn't seem to be sick, but she's just gone off the food.
She's hunting.
Okay.
That cat's hunting.
Right.
Definitely. So the field mice and voles and possibly, unfortunately, also little birds.
Okay.
So your cat is hunting and is having a great old time with the spring upsurge in little rodents and little furry. Yeah.
Right. That's what it is.
It is. Now, look if you're in a very urban area where there isn't that much in terms of hunting around you for the cat to do, then consider the fact there might be a neighbour feeding that cat.
Okay,
she's in great form. You see, if a cat had toothache, which is one reason why they go off their food, right? The cat will be going to the bowl, having a look at it, feeling sorry for herself, looking at you and indicating, hey, I want to eat but I can't.
Right, okay.
So if your cat is just taking no interest, but still in good form, then she's getting her nutrition elsewhere, no doubt.
I kind of noticed that our cat's a bit like that as well, to be honest with you. We're kind of mixing and matching stuff. We predominantly dry food, but occasionally we try, she's gone off it again or whatever.
Well, plus they eat more in the winter than they do in the summer, and it's no harm anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, because they got the bit, and they're shedding the coats now as well at the moment. They are indeed. Okay, so back to our top 20 list. Hope that keeps you going.
Hope that helps, Julie,
Yeah, absolutely. On to the first of our two topics today. to get informed properly about vaccinations.
Yeah, so 20 ways to save money on pet care. One way to save money is to vaccinate your dog adequately and regularly so they don't get sick, obviously, because any of those diseases that we vaccinate against are expensive and tricky to treat. So vaccinating, spending money on vaccines, paradoxically, is a way to save money. But the second part of that tip of 20 ways to save money on pet care is make sure you vaccinate for the right things and get advice about it. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by that. First of all, you know the premium pet plans we're always talking about?
Yep.
A lot of vet clinics now doing this, vet practices now doing these monthly membership fees. The vaccines are included in all that.
Right, okay.
So you don't have to walk in off the street and cough up €90 for vaccines once a year. If you pay your €30 membership, you'll get your consultations, wormers, flea treatments and the vaccines.
Okay.
So that's important to know.
What about people who are starting off getting dogs for the first time, whether they're getting them purebreds or whether they're getting them from pounds or they're getting them from rescue centres or whatever the case may be? Mm-hmm. So are they getting them vaccinated?
Yeah, say it's a puppy. But all places now, if you ask, they have a puppy vaccination package.
Okay.
So it's €90 or €100 in the different practices, and there'll be 7 or 8 vaccines and the wormers and flea treatments for €100. So all practices do a puppy package because they want you to give the puppy everything.
Okay.
And that's a way to save money too.
Okay. What about timescale regarding how often and frequent do you get vaccinations?
Yeah. So the viral part of the vaccine is every 3 years. That's DHPPI, distemper hepatitis parvo parainfluenza. They're the viral things we vaccinate every 3 years.
Okay.
The bacterial part of what we vaccinate against every year, once a year.
Okay, so say you've a dog 2 or 3 years of age. He's been vaccinated or she's been vaccinated up to this moment in time. So what are you saying, every 2 or 3 years? But surely they're getting annual stuff done anyway.
Yeah, you have to go in every year because the leptospirosis is the bacterial vaccine and the kennel cough is a bacterial vaccine. They're once a year. Okay,
so it's important that you keep up to date on those as well.
Yeah, so there's 8 things, right? DHPPI.
Yeah.
There's Alepto 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And there's 2 things in the kennel cough, a virus and a bacteria. The bacteria is called Bordetella. It's the same bacteria that causes some kind of coughs in human infants.
Okay.
We don't call it kennel cough anymore.
No.
We call it canine cough because it's recognised that they can catch it up, they can pick it up anywhere and they can catch it by just touching noses.
Wow. There you go. That's interesting indeed. Okay, and when it comes to the vaccinations themselves, what's the costings if you stand alone? You're saying
it's going to be like €90 a year sort of thing in most places.
So the insurance
for all
insurance
those.
pack is a good
but
idea.
Your membership's going to cover all that, yeah.
That's a very good idea, actually. It'll cover all the basics as well.
Yeah, now, for me, the canine cough vaccine as well is part of the package. It's not an option anymore. I'd consider it compulsory. You should do it. It's an easy vaccine. It's part of the package. There's a saving in doing it with all the others. Now, older fashioned, more practices that are, still doing it the old way, they're not pushing the canine cough vaccine. They're leaving it as an option. And that's a mistake because frequently we have people in Gym Dog coming into us and they want to book the dog into a boarding kennels or they want to book the dog for dog training or doggy daycare or into grooming, and they're discovering that you can't go into any of these kind of dog places without the canine cough vaccine already. And they're saying, hey, my vet's in Newbridge or whatever it is, they didn't even offer me that. They didn't mean this. I was led to believe that was an option, that I didn't have to get it. But no, I'm saying to people, the canine cough vaccine, you do have to get it. You should get it. You should get it with the Lepto and the Parvo every year, and you'll save in the long run if you do that.
Hi Des, quick one for you regarding pet passports and vaccinations going abroad. We're taking our dog to France for the first time. We're going off to the mobile home thing.
Cool.
Again, we're bringing the dog this time. The kids are older. We're looking forward to it. What do we need to do? Okay,
for health reasons for the dog, you need to make sure you're 8 in 1. DHPPI and L2 and canine cough. Make sure that's up to date. That'll be the once a year shots. The additional shot the dog needs is the rabies shot. Rabies vaccination. The rabies vaccination has to be certified and stamped into a pet passport.
Okay.
It'll cost you about €150 to get a passport and a rabies vac for your dog.
Do you need the rabies vac for France?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be checked at the port in Cork.
Okay.
Before you get on the boat to France.
Okay. Or out of Wexford, whichever out of Ross.
Your dog, the microchip will be checked by a customs official in the boot of the car.
Yeah.
They will check the chip on your dog. they'll use the scanner, the chip reader, to actually check that the dog in the boot.
And you've done this with Bonnie?
Yeah, I've done this with Bonnie.
Yeah.
They check the dog. They make sure that the chip in the dog matches the number in the passport.
Okay.
And then they take the passport into their hut and they take a picture of it.
Okay.
And the passport has to have the rabies vac stamped and signed into it by a vet. So the little blue passport with the microchip details in it and the rabies vac details in it is about €150.
Okay. Keep them coming, those 0833 97 97 97. Right, I want to turn our attentions. You can continue with the vaccination questions. We'll get to Des on them. There's no problem. We'll wrap up towards the end of that, going back to it. But I want to turn to another point on our top 20 list. Get the breed to suit you.
Yeah.
Get a crossbreed, you're also saying.
Now, right. Okay, I love to see people getting crossbreeds because in general they're healthier.
And they're the ones you find more in the rescue centres anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also love to see people going to rescue centres. Adopt, don't shop, as they say. Okay. So one of the things on my list of 20 tips is get a breed to suit you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. A lot of people take a Figari, take a Notion, they like the neighbour's dog and they get one of them for themselves. Could be a French bulldog or a pug or something. And it turns out to be unsuitable. Doesn't suit their family, doesn't suit their lifestyle. If you go to the dog shelters, you're more likely, hopefully, to get good advice from doggy people about what type of a dog would suit you.
Yeah.
So if you're an active, outdoor, sporty person, maybe a big, young, active dog might suit you. Collie, Lurcher, Whippet, Retriever Cross, Labrador Cross, even German Shepherd, like a nice, big, very active working breed might suit you if you're a sporty, outdoor person and you do a lot of hiking and you want a dog to hike with you, go on the long walks with you. Then brilliant, get a big, active dog. But you need to be a physically capable, strong, active person to have a big dog.
And most importantly, you have to exercise them.
You have to exercise them. So they like a Labrador is going to need 40 minutes morning and evening. A collie could need more. A collie could need 40 minutes to an hour a few times a day. Now, a Lurcher or a Whippet, no, you might get away with just one run once a day.
Yeah.
But these dogs that are descended from, that originate from working breeds, they have high energy and they have high activity needs. So you need to be an active person.
Yeah.
Like, bluntly, if you're a couch potato, don't get yourself a collie.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not an active person, then get yourself a small dog or get a cat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So similarly, again, if you live in an apartment, it needs to be a small dog.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you're an apartment dweller, preferably a dog that doesn't shed, right? Like a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Smaller breeds, little terriers, little chihuahuas, don't shed much. If you're an apartment dweller, I'd say you get a Bichon or a Westie. Well, you need to keep a little dog like that groomed regularly, or you'll have a lot of doggy dust and dog hair in your apartment, which you're not going to like, naturally enough. Okay? Also, if you have young children, you need to be very careful to get a potentially child-friendly breed.
Yeah.
Like a Cockapoo or a Cavapoo, a Cavalier, a nice gentle breed, a Shih Tzu, whatever it might be. Don't get yourself a guard dog, right? If you've got small children in the house.
No. But if you're out, what about the opposite end of the spectrum? In other words, say you're in a nice house out in the countryside on an acre of land.
Yeah.
You can get your golden retrievers and your stuff like that then.
You can have a Rottweiler, you can have a German Shepherd.
Yeah.
You can have a Doberman. You can have a Rhodesian Ridgeback. You know, if you're on an acre and a half out in the country and you've got loads of land, then get a big dog.
Do you recommend that dogs have company? Should they always have I know you're in this situation where you're involved with pets and Bonnie gets on with you and the gang and everything else and you got one dog. But what's the myth there? Because if there's people have, say, a lifestyle thing where both people are working daily, would it be a good idea to have two then? Yeah.
So if the dog is going to be alone for most of the day, then a second dog is a good idea.
Yeah.
But if part of the family or somebody works from home, the dog's with the person. You see, dogs are social, but they've evolved to connect them to our family, to our pack. So they're not actually going to be lonely if they have as long as they have human company.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to have human company, then a second dog would be a good idea.
Okay. Right, let's turn our attention to some questions coming in. Reference a cat vaccine. What happens if you miss 1 year? Do you have to start all over again doing the vaccines twice, says Christina Maynooth?
Yeah, practice policies differ a little bit, so different vets would have probably different opinions on this. But yeah, if your vaccine is any more than about a year lapsed, they're going to make you restart.
Yeah.
That just means we give shot 1 today, and we give a booster, which probably is the same again 3 weeks later.
Why do you say there's different people giving different advice on that?
Because practice policies. Some practices will restart the vaccines and insist on the second shot if your vaccination is any more than 3 months lapsed.
Yeah, that makes sense as
well.
And
others might have a policy of if it's more than 6 months lapsed,
yeah,
they might make you restart.
Okay.
That's because the grey area arises a little because different animals' immune system goes along a different curve.
Okay, guys, there's lots of questions coming in regarding the previous programme with Clem and over in Selbridge. If you can defer them till just for the next while, because it's coming in across our stuff, I'll let the team know in Kildare today that those comments are coming through, and I'll pass them on to them. Right, my 8-year-old is not neutered. Jack Russell, he's having some blood on his pillow during the night. What do you think is the cause of it?
The most likely cause is a urinary tract infection. Okay. It mightn't be directly related to the fact that he's not neutered.
Okay.
So a urinary tract...
He's just kind of panicking a bit, but maybe it's not.
So the owner's wondering if this blood on the... probably coming out of the urinary tract is because he hasn't got his dog neutered. It's not. Like, he might have a kidney infection, he might have a bladder infection, and he might have something more serious in the kidney or the bladder. But neither of those conditions are necessarily connected to the neutering. Okay. Now, what would be connected to the neutering, there's a third thing. Maybe he has a prostate problem, prostatitis, prostatic hypertrophy, prostatic infection, or prostatic cancer.
Okay.
On the spectrum of horrible things or minor things that can happen. That's the range of it. Could be a prostate.
Okay. So your advice to Mick in Kilcullen is, first of all, if the fact that there is showing blood, any blood discharge from a penis or vulva needs to be seen by. You do need veterinary advice. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You needed that pronto there, Mick in Kilcullen. Don't wait, just in case, to eliminate anything that could be sinister or whatever the case may be. Right. My 8-year-old... no, that's just the one we did. Sorry, just updated there. Right. Can dogs poop on the path be linked to his chip? That doesn't make sense.
No.
No,
there's a kind of an old myth and a bit of a conversation piece about whether you can DNA test a dog from their poop. I don't think you really can. I don't know if it's workable, that anything can be traced like that. And definitely not the chip, no. The chip is just an inert little fragment in the neck.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. Yeah, it does, yeah. How is the chipping going these days, by the way?
Good, yeah. You see, it's compulsory to chip any litter that's registered with the Kennel Club. Anyone trying to sell a dog on any of the dog commercial websites have to have microchips for the dog. So more and more dogs are being microchipped. There's only the odd very older dog out there that still isn't chipped.
That makes sense as well. Okay, there's a question after coming in. I'm ad-libbing this because it's got lost in some of the other stuff that's come in. But basically it was to do with grooming. A vet told us not to clip the dogs too much during the summer months themselves, recommended that they're well able to manage.
Yeah, but the coat would need to be thinned out.
Right.
You see, they do need a bit of help shedding the winter coat.
Okay.
So you're going to have to do, if you don't want your dog clipped out, or your dog is one of these breeds that has the double coat and it's not a great candidate for clipping out, then you need to get a really vigorous de-shedding done. Okay. And one of the things on my list of 20 tips of ways to save money on pet care is to learn to groom a little bit yourself and do the de-shedding with the big brushes yourself.
I would agree with you 100%. When I take my long-haired German Shepherd to the groomers, they tell me that my dog's hair shouldn't be cut because it regulates their temperature. But that's only to a degree.
Yeah, but you see German Shepherds with the big old winter coat hanging off them.
Yeah.
And it's dead and it's falling out.
Yeah.
They need to be dematted and de-shedded a couple of times a year.
Right.
Or else it's going to end up on your couch, on your rugs, in the house, listener.
Right, okay. And my poor dog is sweltering under his heavy coat.
It's sweltering under the heavy coat,
not sheared off, but definitely thinned out.
Now, it's possible to thin it out. Yeah. I would agree, they don't like it being clipped, German Shepherds. If you clip back a German Shepherd fully like that, they look terrible. Okay. It's not natural for them. But thinning out and de-shedding is vital.
Okay, done and dusted. If you want to get in touch with Des, actually, you can just get him.
Petslife.ie, folks, or give us a call at Kildare Vet Surgery.
Okay, we've more from our top 20 list next week, and as always, we'll podcast this later on in the afternoon. Des, thanks.
Great, thanks, John.
It's a Pet's Life with Jim Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet, managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.